The full moon hung heavy in the Montana sky, casting its silver light across the Ironwood Pack territory. In the kitchen of the main lodge, Maya Winters scrubbed dishes with raw red hands. 21 years old and relegated to the shadows, an Omega whose very existence was considered an embarrassment. The pack celebrated outside, their howls and laughter filtering through the kitchen windows. The annual Summer Moon Festival was in full swing, but Maya remained hidden away as she had for years. Her silver hair, unusual even among wolf shifters, was tied back severely, her pale blue eyes downcast as she worked. A crash from outside made her flinch. Young wolves roughhousing too close to the kitchen door. Maya closed her eyes, willing them away. The last thing she needed was another confrontation with Victoria the Alpha's daughter or her enforcer, Garrett. The kitchen door swung open. "Hey, Silver Freak!" Victoria's voice dripped with disdain. At 23, she embodied everything Maya was not confident, respected pure alpha blood. "Mom says we need more platters for the elders." Maya nodded without looking up. "I'll bring them out. Make sure they're actually clean this time." Victoria leaned against the door frame, watching Maya with undisguised contempt. "Last time old Gregory found a spot and complained for weeks. Like you should even be handling things that touch real wolves' food." Maya felt something stir inside her chest. A familiar burning sensation that she'd learned to suppress years ago. The burning that came before the pain, before the failed shifts that left her writhing on the ground while others watched in disgust or pity. "I asked Garrett to help me carry them," Victoria continued, examining her perfect nails. "But he refused to breathe the same air as you for more than a minute. Said your stink makes him want to vomit." The burning intensified. Maya focused on her breathing the way her grandmother had taught her. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Don't let them see. Don't let them know how much it hurts. A child's scream cut through the night, sharp and terrified. Before Victoria could even turn her head, Maya had dropped the dish she was washing and bolted past her, moving with a speed that surprised even herself. Outside, chaos had erupted near the bonfire. A small boy, no more than 5 years old, had wandered too close to the flames. His clothing had caught fire, and now he stood frozen in terror as the flames climbed his pant leg. Maya didn't think. She moved on pure instinct, lunging forward and tackling the child to the ground, rolling with him away from the fire. She used her own body to smother the flames, ignoring the searing pain as the fire caught the edge of her sleeve. When they came to a stop, Maya cradled the sobbing child, checking him for injuries. Minor burns on his leg, but nothing life-threatening. The boy looked up at her with wide, tear-filled eyes. "You saved me," he whispered. For a brief, beautiful moment, Maya felt warmth spread through her chest that had nothing to do with the fire. Then reality crashed back as the boy's mother rushed forward, snatching him from Maya's arms. "Get away from him." The woman clutched her son protectively, eyes wild with fear. "She touched him. The defective one touched my son." Others gathered around, their expressions ranging from confusion to outright hostility. Maya remained on the ground, suddenly aware of the pain in her arm where the flames had burned through her sleeve. "How did she move so fast?" Someone whispered. "Did you see that no one moves that fast?" "She knew," another voice added. "She knew the boy was in danger before anyone else, like she caused it." "Witch," a third voice hissed. "Silver Witch." Maya felt the familiar sensation of walls closing in around her. The burning in her chest intensified, threatening to overwhelm her. She needed to get away, needed to find somewhere quiet before the pain took hold completely. A strong hand gripped her shoulder. Maya looked up to find Margaret, her grandmother, standing over her. At 78, Margaret still stood tall and proud, her silver-streaked hair pulled back in a neat bun, her eyes sharp and clear. "Come," Margaret said, simply helping Maya to her feet. The old woman turned to face the crowd, her expression severe. "The girl saved a child while the rest of you stood gawking. Shame on you all." No one challenged Margaret directly. For all her age, she commanded a certain respect, even in a pack that valued youth and strength above all else. Margaret had been mated to a respected warrior, after all, before his death in the Great Northern War. She had earned her place, even if her granddaughter had not. Margaret guided Maya away from the crowd toward their small cabin at the edge of the territory. Once inside, she examined Maya's burned arm with gentle hands. "You moved without thinking," Margaret observed, applying a sweet-smelling salve to the burn. "Your instincts are growing stronger." Maya shook her head. "It doesn't matter. Did you hear them?" Witch, silver witch, as if saving a child is some kind of dark magic. They fear what they do not understand. Margaret wrapped a clean bandage around Maya's arm. And you, my dear, are beyond their understanding. I'm nothing, Grandma, a failed wolf, a defective Omega who can't even shift properly. Margaret's eyes flashed with an emotion Maya couldn't quite place. Do you know how many times in history the extraordinary have been labeled defective by the ordinary? How many times those with true power have been persecuted by those who fear them? Maya sighed, having heard variations of this speech throughout her childhood. I'm not extraordinary, I'm just broken. Have you ever wondered why your shifts cause you such pain? Why your wolf seems to fight against emerging rather than flowing naturally as it should? Because I'm weak. No, Margaret's voice hardened, because you are so strong that your power had to be bound, chained, suppressed. Outside the celebration continued, though Maya could sense a different energy now. Whispers spreading no doubt about her strange behavior, her unnatural speed, her inexplicable foreknowledge of danger. They'll never accept me, Maya said quietly, no matter what I do. Margaret moved to the small window, pulling back the worn curtain to gaze at the full moon. Perhaps not, but soon, very soon, you will find those who will. Maya frowned. What do you mean? Margaret turned her expression solemn. Alexander Nightcrest is coming. Maya felt her blood run cold. Everyone knew that name, even sheltered Omegas like herself. Alexander Nightcrest. The Alpha King of the Northern Territories. The Silver Wolf. The warrior who had united 7 warring packs under his rule after the Great Northern War. Here to Ironwood, Maya's voice shook slightly. Why would he come here? Officially a diplomatic visit. But I suspect his true reasons run much deeper. Margaret sat beside Maya, taking her hands. He will arrive tomorrow night, and all unmated wolves of age will be presented to him. I won't be included, Maya said with certainty. They never include me in formal presentations. I'm an embarrassment. This time you must be present. Alpha Gregory has received direct instructions that all wolves are to attend regardless of status or perceived defects. Maya stared at her grandmother. The Alpha King specifically asked for defective wolves to be presented. That makes no sense. Unless, Margaret said carefully, he is searching for someone specific, someone who might be hidden among those labeled defective. Maya's mind raced. Grandma, you're not suggesting... A sharp knock at the door interrupted them. Maya tensed, but Margaret squeezed her hand reassuringly before rising to answer. Alpha Gregory himself stood on their doorstep, his massive frame nearly filling the entire entrance. Behind him, Victoria and Garrett watched with poorly concealed smirks. Margaret, Gregory nodded curtly, barely acknowledging the older woman's presence. I need to speak with your granddaughter. Margaret stepped aside, allowing the Alpha to enter their modest home. He looked around with thinly veiled disgust, as though the simple furnishings offended him personally. There was an incident at the festival, Gregory said, turning his cold gaze to Maya. My granddaughter saved a child from burning, Margaret replied before Maya could speak. I would call that heroism, not an incident. Gregory's jaw tightened. Several pack members have expressed concerns about how she knew the boy was in danger. About her unnatural speed. I heard him scream, Maya said quietly. Anyone would have done the same. No one else heard a scream until after you were already moving. Gregory's eyes narrowed. And no Omega moves with that kind of speed. What are you hiding, girl? The burning sensation returned to Maya's chest stronger now. She fought to keep her breathing steady. Nothing, Alpha. I'm not hiding anything. She's a witch, Victoria said from the doorway, her voice trembling with fake fear. Everyone saw it. She probably caused the fire in the first place just so she could play hero. That's absurd, Margaret snapped. She burned herself saving that child. Gregory held up a hand, silencing them both. Whatever the truth, the timing is unfortunate. The Alpha King arrives tomorrow, and I won't have any disturbances during his visit. He leveled his gaze at Maya. You will attend the formal presentation as he has requested all unmated wolves be present. But you will remain silent unless directly addressed. Is that understood? Maya nodded, keeping her eyes downcast as protocol demanded when addressing an Alpha. Father, Victoria stepped forward, her face a mask of concern. Surely you don't mean to present her to the Alpha King. She can't even shift properly. it would be an embarrassment to our entire pack. I have no choice, Gregory growled. His instructions were explicit. Unmated wolves of age must be present regardless of status or ability. After they left, Maya turned to Margaret, confusion written across her features. Why would the Alpha King want to see someone like me? Margaret's eyes gleamed in the dim light. Because, my dear, he has been searching for you for a very, very long time. The next evening arrived with a flurry of activity throughout the Ironwood Pack territory. The main lodge had been transformed, decorated with the pack's colors of green and silver. Every wolf wore their finest clothing, an unusual concession to human customs made only for the most formal occasions. Maya stood before the small, cracked mirror in their cabin, staring at her reflection. Margaret had insisted she wear a simple blue dress that had belonged to her mother. The color made her unusual silver hair stand out even more starkly and did nothing to disguise her pale skin or too thin frame. I look like exactly what I am, Maya said bitterly. A freak. You look like exactly what you are, Margaret corrected, adjusting the dress's neckline. The last of the moon blessed, a queen in waiting. Maya rolled her eyes. Grandma, those are just bedtime stories. There are no moon-blessed wolves anymore. They're myths like the void wolves or the star dancers. Margaret's hands stilled. Not all myths are fiction, child. Some are history disguised as fantasy to protect dangerous truths. Before Maya could respond, a howl cut through the evening air. A signal. The Alpha King had arrived. Margaret pressed a small vial into Maya's hand. Drink this before we go. It will help control the pain if your wolf tries to emerge. Maya uncorked the vial, sniffing the contents suspiciously. What is it? Moon mint and silver sage, an old recipe. It will strengthen the bindings just for tonight. Bindings? What bindings? But Margaret was already heading for the door. We must not be late. Come now. The main lodge was packed beyond capacity. Every member of the Ironwood Pack had turned out to witness the arrival of the Alpha King, along with representatives from neighboring packs. Maya and Margaret slipped in through a side entrance, staying near the back as instructed. Maya could feel curious eyes upon her, whispers following in her wake. The incident from the previous night had clearly not been forgotten. She kept her gaze fixed on the floor, fighting the growing sense of panic that threatened to overwhelm her. Stand straight, Margaret whispered. You are not some cowering Omega tonight. You are your mother's daughter. Remember that. Maya tried to straighten her posture, but years of conditioning were difficult to overcome. She had spent so long trying to be invisible that visibility itself felt like a punishment. A hush fell over the crowd. The massive double doors at the front of the lodge swung open, and a wave of power rolled through the room like physical force. Maya gasped, the burning in her chest flaring so intensely she nearly doubled over. Margaret gripped her arm. Steady, child. Breathe through it. Maya struggled to obey, lifting her gaze just enough to see what was happening. Wolves throughout the room were dropping to their knees, bowing their heads in a show of submission to the overwhelming dominance flooding the space. Even proud Victoria and her brother were kneeling, their faces pressed almost to the floor. Then he entered, and the world seemed to still. Alexander Nycrest moved with the fluid grace of a natural predator, each step measured and deliberate. He stood well over 6 feet tall, his broad shoulders and powerful frame evident even beneath his formal clothing. His hair was black as midnight, cropped short at the sides, but longer on top. His face was all sharp angles and planes with a strong jaw and prominent cheekbones. But it was his eyes that captured Maya's attention most completely. They were silver. Not gray, not pale blue, but true silver like polished metal catching the light. Eyes that had seen war and death and suffering, yet remained somehow unbowed by it all. Those silver eyes swept across the room, taking in every detail with predatory efficiency. Maya felt the inexplicable urge to hide, to run, to escape the scrutiny of that penetrating gaze. And yet at the same time, another part of her, a part she barely recognized, wanted to step forward to be seen. Her wolf. For the first time in her life, Maya's wolf was not cowering in pain. It was standing at attention, alert and eager, straining toward the Alpha King like a flower toward the sun. Mine, a voice whispered in the depths of her mind. Mine. The thought was so shocking, so completely alien, that Maya nearly laughed out loud. Her wolf, her broken, defective wolf, was laying claim to the most powerful alpha in 7 territories. It was absurd, insane. The burning in her chest intensified, spreading through her limbs like wildfire. Maya realized with horror that she was the only person in the room still standing. Everyone else, even the visiting alphas, had shown proper submission. Everyone except her. She tried to kneel to bow her head, but her body refused to cooperate. The wolf inside her would not submit, would not lower itself, not even to the Alpha King himself. Alexander's silver gaze continued its journey around the room, assessing and dismissing each wolf in turn. Then, like a physical blow, his attention landed on Maya. Their eyes locked across the crowded room and something electric passed between them. Maya couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't move. The burning sensation exploded into something new, something almost pleasurable, a recognition so profound it bordered on pain. Alexander went utterly still. For a heartbeat that seemed to stretch into eternity, neither of them moved. Then, ignoring everyone else in the room, the Alpha King began walking directly toward her. Wolves scrambled to clear a path, faces reflecting confusion and alarm. No one had expected the Alpha King to single out anyone so quickly, least of all the pack's embarrassment, the defective Omega who couldn't even shift properly. "Your Majesty," Gregory hurried forward, bowing deeply. "Welcome to Ironwood territory. We are honored by your presence. May I present our strongest unmated females for your consideration?" Alexander didn't even glance in his direction. His focus remained fixed on Maya, his expression unreadable as he approached. Up close, he was even more imposing. Maya could feel the power radiating from him like heat from a flame, could smell the scent of pine and winter storms, and something wilder, something her wolf recognized on a primal level. "What is your name?" His voice was deep, resonant, somehow both gentle and commanding at once. Maya tried to speak, but no sound emerged. The burning had spread throughout her entire body now, making it difficult to focus on anything else. "This is Maya Winters." Margaret stepped forward, her voice steady despite the circumstances. "My granddaughter." Alexander's gaze flicked briefly to Margaret, something like recognition flashing in his silver eyes. "Margaret, you haven't aged a day." A murmur rippled through the crowd. The Alpha King knew this old woman by name. "Flattery," Margaret replied with a small smile. "It has been many years, Your Majesty." Alexander returned his attention to Maya. "Maya Winters," he repeated as though testing the name on his tongue. "I would speak with you privately." Gregory made a strangled sound. "Your Majesty, surely you would prefer to meet with our more accomplished females first. Maya is, that is, she has certain limitations that make her unsuitable for—" "I did not ask for your assessment." Alexander's voice remained level, but the temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. "I said I would speak with her privately." "Now." Gregory paled, bowing his head. "Of course, Your Majesty. The Blue Moon Chamber has been prepared for your private audiences. I will escort you personally." "No need," Alexander replied, still looking at Maya. "She will show me the way." Maya felt dozens of eyes boring into her back as she led the Alpha King through the lodge. Victoria's hatred was practically a physical force burning between her shoulder blades. Garrett's confusion and Alpha Gregory's fear created a toxic mixture that filled the air around them. The Blue Moon Chamber was the pack's finest room reserved for visiting dignitaries and important ceremonies. Maya had never been allowed inside before. She opened the ornate door with trembling hands, stepping aside to let Alexander enter first, as protocol demanded. Instead, he gestured for her to precede him. A small courtesy, but one that spoke volumes about his character. Alphas, especially Alpha Kings, were not known for their politeness toward Omegas. The chamber was beautiful, decorated in shades of blue and silver, with a domed ceiling painted to resemble the night sky. A large window offered a perfect view of the full moon rising over the mountains. Alexander closed the door behind them, the soft click of the latch sounding unnaturally loud in the quiet room. Maya moved toward the window, putting some distance between them, trying to calm her racing heart and the strange burning sensation that refused to subside. "You're afraid," Alexander observed, remaining by the door. Maya glanced at him. "Everyone is afraid of you. That's rather the point of being the Alpha King, isn't it?" A smile flickered across his face there, and gone so quickly she might have imagined it. "True, but your fear is different. You're not afraid I'll hurt you. You're afraid I'll see you." Maya looked away. "I don't know what you mean." "Liar, he said, but there was no heat in the accusation. He moved further into the room, not approaching her directly, but moving to examine a painting on the wall. Tell me, Maya Winters, how long have you been in pain? The question was so unexpected that Maya answered without thinking. Always. Since my first shift attempt at 18. And what happens when you try to shift? Maya wrapped her arms around herself, uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation. It hurts. I can't complete the transformation. My bones break, my skin stretches, but the wolf can't fully emerge. The pack healer says my wolf is malformed, too weak to manifest properly. Alexander made a sound low in his throat, almost a growl. And you believed him. Why wouldn't I? Everyone in the pack can shift except me. Can they? He turned to face her fully, those silver eyes boring into her with unsettling intensity. Or do they simply shift differently than you would if you were allowed? Maya frowned. Allowed. No one is stopping me from shifting. Aren't they? Alexander moved closer, his movements deliberate, as though approaching a skittish animal. Your grandmother's potion. What did she tell you it was for? Maya stiffened. How did you? I can smell it on your breath. Moon mint and silver sage, if I'm not mistaken. Powerful herbs, especially in combination. She said it would help with the pain if my wolf tried to emerge. Alexander's expression darkened. She lied. That mixture doesn't ease pain, Maya. It suppresses your wolf completely. Chains it. Binds it so tightly it can barely breathe, let alone emerge. Maya shook her head. No, that's not possible. Grandma wouldn't. She would if she thought it was protecting you. Alexander was close enough now that Maya could feel the heat radiating from his body. If she thought keeping your true nature hidden was the only way to keep you alive. My true nature? Maya backed away until she felt the window ledge press against her spine. What are you talking about? Alexander stopped respecting her need for space. Your grandmother never told you what you really are. Did she? What your mother was. My mother died when I was 5. I barely remember her. But you remember her silver hair, don't you? Her unusual pale blue eyes. The way other wolves both feared and respected her. Maya's breath caught. How do you know what my mother looked like? Because I've been searching for her bloodline for 20 years. Alexander's voice softened. I've been searching for you, Maya Winters. Me. Why would you be looking for me? May I? Alexander extended his hand slowly, palm up, a gesture of request rather than demand. Maya hesitated, then cautiously placed her hand in his. The moment their skin touched, an electric current seemed to race up her arm. The burning in her chest exploded into a supernova of sensation, not pain, sky, but something so intense it bordered on agony. Alexander's eyes widened, his pupils dilating, as he clearly felt it too. He didn't release her hand, but his grip gentled, thumb brushing across her knuckles in a soothing motion. You feel it, he said softly. The connection, the recognition. Maya could only nod, words beyond her, as the sensation continued to cascade through her body. Do you know what that means? She shook her head. It means you are not defective, Maya. You are not broken or weak or malformed. His silver eyes seemed to glow in the moonlight streaming through the window. You are moon-blessed, the last of an ancient bloodline so powerful that the other packs hunted them to near extinction out of fear. The words struck Maya like physical blows. Moon-blessed, the wolves of legend said to be blessed by the moon goddess herself, with powers beyond ordinary shifters. Wolves who could walk on moonbeams, see through shadows, command the very elements. Wolves whose fur gleamed like captured starlight, and whose howls could heal or harm. Bedtime stories, myths, legends. That's impossible, Maya whispered. The moon-blessed died out centuries ago. Everyone knows that. They didn't die out, Alexander corrected gently. They went into hiding. They bound their power, disguised themselves as ordinary wolves. They bred with normal shifters, diluting their bloodline until only a few pure moon-blessed remained. And you think I'm one of them? Maya pulled her hand away, wrapping her arms around herself once more. I can't even shift properly. How could I possibly be some legendary super wolf? You can't shift properly because your power has been bound, Alexander explained patiently. First by your mother to protect you from those who would hunt you. Then by your grandmother, continuing that protection after your mother's death. Maya's mind reeled, trying to process this impossible information. Even if what you're saying is true, why would you care? Why search for 20 years for someone like me? Alexander turned to gaze out the window at the full moon. Because 20 years ago, I met a moon-blessed wolf who saved my life during the Great Northern War. She healed wounds that should have been fatal, then made me promise that if I survived, I would find and protect her daughter. Maya's heart skipped a beat. My mother, Alexander nodded. Evelyn Winters, the silver wolf of the Eastern Territories, the most powerful moon-blessed born in 3 generations. If she was so powerful, why did she die? Maya's voice cracked slightly. Why didn't she save herself? Because maintaining the binding spell on your wolf drained her life force. Alexander's expression was solemn. She sacrificed herself to keep you safe, to keep your power hidden until you were old enough, strong enough to claim it. A knock at the door interrupted them. Gregory's voice filtered through the wood. Your Majesty, the formal dinner awaits your presence. Alexander looked annoyed at the interruption. He moved to the door, opening it just enough to address the Alpha. We will join you shortly. He closed the door firmly before Gregory could respond, then turned back to Maya. I know this is overwhelming. 20 years of lies unraveling in a single conversation. His expression softened. But tonight at the formal dinner, you will sit beside me in the place of honor. Maya's eyes widened. I can't. Omegas eat in the kitchen. It's pack law. Not tonight. Alexander's voice held no room for argument. Tonight you sit where you belong, at my side. The formal dinner was an elaborate affair with long tables arranged in the main hall of the lodge. At the head table on a slightly raised platform sat the most important wolves, Alpha Gregory and his mate visiting pack leaders, and of course the Alpha King himself. And beside him in the place traditionally reserved for an Alpha King's chosen mate or honored guest sat Maya Winters. The whispers were deafening. Maya kept her eyes fixed on her plate, feeling the weight of dozens of stares. Victoria, seated several places down, looked ready to shift and attack right there at the table. Garrett's expression was murderous, while Gregory seemed caught between rage and terror. Smile, Alexander murmured, his breath warm against her ear. Let them wonder. They're not wondering, Maya whispered back. They're plotting my murder. Let them trace. The casual confidence in his voice should have been reassuring, but it only reminded Maya how far out of her depth she truly was. The dinner progressed with excruciating slowness. Maya barely touched her food, her stomach too knotted with anxiety to allow for appetite. Alexander, by contrast, ate with apparent enjoyment, engaging in polite conversation with those around him while maintaining a protective presence at her side. So, Victoria's honeyed voice cut through a momentary lull in conversation. How fascinating that your Majesty has taken such an interest in our Omega. Maya has always been special to our pack. The lie was so blatant that Maya nearly choked on her water. Alexander's eyes narrowed almost imperceptibly. Special, he repeated, his tone giving nothing away. Tell me more about how special she is. Victoria's smile flickered with uncertainty. Well, she's unique. The only Omega in our pack who can't shift properly. It's really quite remarkable, medically speaking. I see. Alexander lifted his wineglass, examining the dark liquid as if it held secrets. And you've been kind to her, I assume, as packmates should be. Of course. Victoria's voice had gone slightly higher. We're all family here. Family. Alexander took a measured sip of his wine. Like this morning when you watched Garrett break a plate and blame her for it. The blood drained from Victoria's face. Around the table, conversations died. Or perhaps, like last week, Alexander continued conversationally, when you poured wolfsbane extract in her wash water, hoping to see if it would burn her skin. How could you possibly... Victoria caught herself, but it was too late. Know that? Alexander's eyes flashed dangerously. My scouts arrived days before me, watching, reporting. Did you think visiting royalty wouldn't investigate a pack before arriving? His gaze swept the table. I know about every slight, every cruelty, every pathetic display of dominance you've inflicted on someone you deemed weaker than yourselves. Gregory stood, his face purple with rage and embarrassment. Your Majesty, surely these are internal pack matters. Sit down. The command was delivered so quietly that for a moment Maya thought Gregory might not have heard it. Then he dropped into his chair, as if his strings had been cut, the force of an Alpha King's command impossible to resist. Maya. Alexander turned to her, and his voice gentled in a way that made her stomach flip. Would you like to tell me Your side of this morning's incident. She looked around the table at faces twisted with fury, fear, and disbelief. These were people she would have to live with after he left. It was nothing. A misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. Alexander leaned back in his chair, and somehow that casual posture was more threatening than if he'd shifted into wolf form. I wonder if it would still be a misunderstanding if I ordered Garrett to kneel before you and beg forgiveness. Please don't, Maya whispered, horrified at the thought. The retribution would be swift and terrible once you left. As you wish. He stood abruptly, extending his hand to her. Walk with me. It wasn't a request. Maya placed her trembling hand in his, gasping at the spark that jumped between their skin. His fingers closed around hers, warm and calloused from years of combat, and her wolf practically sang with joy. They left the dining hall in absolute silence, but Maya could feel the explosive aftermath building behind them. The moment they were out of earshot, voices erupted in furious discussion. "You've made everything worse," she said once they were in the gardens, the moon casting everything in silver light. "They already hated me. Now they'll do nothing." His grip on her hand tightened. "Because you're leaving with me." Maya stopped so abruptly that he had to catch her to keep her from falling. "What? You're coming to the Nightcrest pack." He turned to face her fully, and in the moonlight his eyes seemed to glow. "Tonight. I can't just leave. This is my pack, my family. The family that calls you defective, the pack that tortures you daily." His free hand came up to cup her cheek, and the gentle touch contrasted sharply with the fury in his voice. "They don't deserve you." The question slipped out before she could stop it. "And you do." Something shifted in his expression. Vulnerability flashing across his features before disappearing behind his usual mask. "No, but I'm selfish enough to take you anyway." "Why?" She pulled away from his touch, needing distance to think clearly. "Why do you care what happens to me, even if I am what you say?" "You know why." He moved closer, backing her against an ancient oak tree. "You feel it too. This pull. Your wolf recognizes mine, even through that damned suppression potion." "That's impossible. I'm nobody. You're my mate." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. Maya's wolf howled in triumph, fighting against its chemical cage with renewed vigor. "No," she whispered. "The universe wouldn't pair you with someone who can't even shift. The universe paired us perfectly." His hands braced against the tree on either side of her head, caging her in. "Your wolf isn't weak, Maya. It's powerful. So powerful that someone saw fit to suppress it before you were even born." "That's insane." "Tell me, what do you know about your mother's bloodline?" "She was from the Eastern Territories. She met my father during a pack gathering. That's all I know. She was the last of the moon-blessed line." Alexander's words fell like stones into still water, sending ripples through everything Maya thought she knew. A bloodline so powerful that the ancient packs feared them. Wolves who could command the moon itself, who could shift into forms beyond normal wolves. That's a fairy tale. Like the fairy tale of the alpha king who can't find his mate. He leaned closer, his breath warm against her ear. Or like the fairy tale of an omega whose wolf is supposedly malformed, but whose very presence makes my wolf want to submit. Your wolf doesn't submit to anyone. It does to yours. The admission seemed to cost him something, his jaw clenching. "From the moment I walked into that hall, my wolf has been clawing at me, demanding I claim you, protect you, worship you." The words sent heat flooding through her body, and the suppression potion finally catastrophically failed. The transformation hit her like a lightning strike. One moment Maya stood pressed against the tree. The next she was on her knees screaming as her bones began to break and reshape. But this time something was different. Instead of the usual agony of incomplete shifting, her body seemed to know exactly what it wanted to become. "Don't fight it." Alexander's voice came from very far away, or maybe very close. She couldn't tell through the sound of her own heartbeat roaring in her ears. "Let your wolf free." "I can't." The words dissolved into a howl as her spine elongated, fur erupting across her skin like silver fire. No, not fur. Something else. Something that caught the moonlight and reflected it back tenfold. Her vision sharpened. Colors she'd never seen before flooded her perception. The world expanded. Scents, sounds, sensations that her human form could never process. She was aware of every insect in the garden, every blade of grass, every star in the sky. And most of all, she was aware of him. Alexander had shifted too, and his wolf was magnificent, massive and black as midnight, with eyes that burned silver fire. But instead of the dominance she expected, he was submitting. The Alpha King Terror of the Northern Territories was on his belly before her neck exposed in ultimate surrender. Beautiful. His voice echoed in her mind through a connection that shouldn't exist yet, not without marking. My beautiful, impossible mate. Maya looked down at herself and gasped, or tried to. What came out was a sound like wind chimes. Her wolf form wasn't like any wolf she'd ever seen. She was larger than she should be, her fur not quite fur at all, but something crystalline that seemed to hold moonlight within each strand. When she moved, she left faint silver paw prints that glowed before fading. What am I? She projected the thought without meaning to the mental communication coming as naturally as breathing. Moon-blessed Alexander responded, rising slowly to his feet. The last of your kind. Your mother bound your wolf to save your life. If the other packs had known what you were... Images flooded her mind, not her own memories but his. Secret meetings between pack alphas. Discussions about the danger of allowing the moon-blessed line to continue. Her mother, young and terrified, performing a binding ritual that would suppress her daughter's true nature until my mate found me. Maya finished, understanding flooding through her. The binding could only be broken by a true mate's touch. Her mother was clever. Alexander patted closer, his massive form still somehow smaller than hers. She knew the other packs would never suspect a broken Omega. She hid you in plain sight. A rage unlike anything Maya had ever felt surged through her. Years of torment, of believing herself worthless, of accepting abuse, all based on a lie designed to keep her alive. She threw her head back and howled. The sound that emerged wasn't like any wolf howl in existence. It was music and moonlight, sorrow and rage, power and pain all woven together. Windows shattered in the lodge. Wolves throughout the territory dropped to their bellies, submitting to a power they didn't understand. The moon itself seemed to pulse in response, growing brighter, until the garden was bathed in light, bright as midday. Maya Alexander's mental voice was gentle but urgent. You need to calm down. Your power, it's been suppressed for so long. If you release it all at once. They hurt me, the thought was a snarl. For years, they hurt me, made me believe I was nothing. I know, he pressed against her side, his warmth grounding her. And they'll answer for it. But not tonight. Tonight we leave. Tonight you come home with me. Home. The word resonated through her in a way that Ironwood never had. As her rage cooled and her wolf form began to shift back, Maya realized that perhaps she'd already found her home. It just wasn't a place. It was a person. The transformation back to human form left Maya vulnerable and exposed in the moonlit garden. Alexander shifted immediately, shrugging off his jacket to wrap around her before anyone could see. The gesture was protective, possessive, and achingly gentle all at once. We need to leave, he said urgently, his eyes scanning the lodge where lights were beginning to flicker on. Your howl. Every wolf in the territory felt it. They'll come to investigate. Let them come, Maya said, surprising herself with the steel in her voice. Let them see what they've been tormenting all these years. Not yet. His hand found hers, their fingers interlacing naturally. You're powerful but untrained, and there are protocols to follow. Then follow your protocols. A familiar voice interrupted. Margaret emerged from the shadows carrying a traveling bag that looked already packed. But do it quickly. The other packs will have felt that power surge. They'll know a moon-blessed has awakened. Grandma. Maya pulled the jacket tighter around herself. You're coming with us. Someone needs to teach you our family's true history. The elderly woman replied, her ancient eyes twinkling with something like pride. Besides, I made a promise to your mother. My work here is done. You found your mate and awakened your wolf. Now the real journey begins. Before Maya could respond, wolves began pouring into the garden. Alpha Gregory led them, his wolf form bristling with aggression, until he saw Alexander standing protectively over Maya. The alpha shifted back, his face cycling through shock, fear, and calculation. What sorcery is this? Gregory demanded, though his voice lacked its usual authority. Not sorcery, Alexander replied coldly. Heritage. The Omega you've been abusing is moon-blessed, the last of the ancient line and my mate. The pronouncement sent shockwaves through the gathered wolves. Maya saw her father among them, his face pale as parchment. Victoria had shifted back too, but she kept her distance, something like fear flickering in her eyes. Impossible, Gregory breathed. The moon-blessed line ended generations ago. Hidden, not ended, Margaret corrected, moving to stand beside her granddaughter. Evelyn bound her daughter's wolf to protect her from packs like yours. Packs that would have killed a moon-blessed pup rather than risk the prophecies coming true. What prophecies? Someone called out. Margaret's voice took on an otherworldly quality as she recited, "When the silver moon rises in the house of night, the old ways shall crumble and the new shall take flight. The Blessed One shall judge with eyes that see true, and those found wanting shall pay what is due." Fairy tales, Gregory scoffed, but his voice shook. The fairy tale just shattered your windows with her howl, Alexander pointed out. I'm taking her tonight at Crest Pack. Any who try to stop me will face the consequences. You can't just take a pack member, Maya's father started to protest. I renounce my ties to Ironwood. Maya interrupted, her voice carrying clearly across the garden. I reject the pack that rejected me. I choose Nightcrest. I choose my mate. The formal words of pack renunciation hung in the air. Once spoken, they couldn't be taken back. Several wolves gasped at the gravity of her declaration. You need alpha permission, Gregory began. Actually, she doesn't, Margaret said mildly. Moon-blessed wolves supersede normal pack law. They answer to no alpha save their mate. Ancient law older than your precious hierarchies. Alexander stepped forward, his presence making several wolves step back instinctively. Maya Winters has chosen. I claim her as my mate, my equal, my queen. Any who challenge this claim will answer to me in formal combat. No one moved, no one dared. Gather your things, he told Maya softly. We leave within the hour. As she turned to go, Maya caught sight of Victoria in the crowd. The girl who'd tormented her for years looked terrified, now her earlier arrogance completely gone. Their eyes met, and Maya saw the moment Victoria understood that the power dynamic had shifted irrevocably. Maya paused, considering. Part of her wanted revenge, wanted to make Victoria suffer as she had suffered. But looking at the fear in the other girl's eyes, Maya realized that revenge would only make her like them. And she was something else entirely. I hope you find peace, Victoria, she said simply, then turned away. The journey to Nightcrest Pack took 3 days through mountain passes Maya had only heard about in stories. Alexander's convoy consisted of a dozen warriors in wolf form flanking their vehicles, sleek black machines that hummed with quiet power. Maya sat beside Alexander in the lead vehicle, while Margaret rested in the one behind, already deep in conversation with James Alexander's beta about ancient moon-blessed traditions. You're different, Maya observed on the second day, studying Alexander's profile as he navigated a particularly treacherous turn. The terrifying Alpha King who threatened to raise territories to ash is gone. He's not gone, Alexander replied, his hand steady on the wheel. He's just not needed right now. You don't require the Alpha King. You need Alexander, and they're different people. One is a weapon, the other is a man, Maya said thoughtfully. You're the only one who's ever cared about the difference. He glanced at her silver eyes, soft. Most see the title first, the person second. It's necessary for maintaining order, but... Lonely, Maya finished. Yes. The simple admission hung between them, weighted with unspoken understanding. They drove in comfortable silence for a while, the connection between them humming contentedly. Maya could feel his emotions now, not clearly without marking, but enough to sense his relief, his protectiveness, in something deeper she wasn't ready to name. Tell me about the war, she said eventually. The one where you met my mother. Alexander's hands tightened on the wheel. The Great Northern War. It began as a territorial dispute between the Black Crest Pack and the River Valley Alliance. But it quickly grew into something more, a battle for the soul of wolf society itself. His voice grew distant, recalling memories he clearly preferred to keep buried. I was young, only 30, too young to lead an army, but I had no choice. My father had been killed in the initial ambush, and suddenly I was alpha of a pack in chaos. You were thrust into leadership, Maya said softly. Like I've been thrust into this role of Moonblessed. He nodded, appreciating the parallel. I made mistakes, costly ones. I led a battalion into what we thought was a safe valley. It was a trap. We were surrounded, outnumbered. I took an arrow tipped with the silver through my chest. Maya winced, imagining the agony of silver penetrating wolf flesh. I ordered my men to leave me to save themselves, Alexander continued, but before they could, she appeared. A woman with silver hair and eyes like pale blue stars moving through the battlefield as if the arrows and swords couldn't touch her. My mother, Maya whispered. Evelyn Winters. She knelt beside me while chaos reigned around us, placed her hands on my wound and sang. Not in any language I knew, but something older, something that seemed to speak directly to the moon above. The silver poison withdrew from my blood. The wound closed, and when I could stand again, she looked me in the eyes and said, "You will survive this war, Alexander Nightcrest, and when you do, you must find my daughter. She will need you as much as you will need her." Then she was gone, Maya guessed, like magic, like moonlight when the clouds pass. Alexander nodded. The tide of battle turned, we escaped. And over the next 5 years, I united the Northern Territories under one banner, ending the war that had claimed too many lives. But I never forgot my promise. So you've been searching for me all this time? For 20 years, he confirmed, following rumors, old stories, whispers of silver wolves and strange powers. When I heard about an Omega in Montana who couldn't shift properly, who had silver hair and unusual eyes, I knew I'd finally found you. Maya stared out the window at the passing mountains, processing this new information. Her mother had saved this man's life, extracted a promise, and set in motion events that would lead to this moment. How much had Evelyn Winters known? How much had she foreseen? She died protecting me, Maya said finally, by binding my wolf. She died ensuring you would have a chance to live, Alexander corrected gently, and now her sacrifice has fulfilled its purpose. You're awake, you're safe, and you're going home. On the third day, they crested a ridge and Maya saw the Nightcrest Pack territory for the first time. The sight stole her breath. Where Ironwood had been modest wooden structures, Nightcrest was a city carved from the mountains themselves. Obsidian towers rose from living rock, connected by bridges that sparkled with embedded gems. Waterfalls cascaded between buildings, their mist creating permanent rainbows. The very air thrummed with ancient power. "Welcome home," Alexander said softly. Home. The word resonated in her bones. As they descended into the valley, wolves began appearing along the road, not threatening but curious. They lowered their heads respectfully as the convoy passed, and Maya realized they were bowing to her, not just to Alexander. "They know?" she asked. "Word travels fast," he replied. "A moon-blessed made it to their Alpha King. You're already a legend." The main fortress gates were crafted from silver and obsidian, depicting the phases of the moon. They opened smoothly as the convoy approached, revealing a courtyard filled with wolves in both forms. "Don't be nervous," Alexander murmured, sensing her tension through their bond. "Easy for you to say. You're not the Omega about to face an entire pack of strangers." "You're not an Omega," he reminded her. "You're moon-blessed. And they're not strangers. They're your pack now." Before she could respond, the vehicle stopped. Alexander emerged first, then turned to help her out. The moment her feet touched the ground, a hush fell over the courtyard. Then as one every wolf present, hundreds of them, dropped to one knee. "Rise," Alexander commanded, his voice carrying easily across the space. "Behold Maya Winters, moon-blessed last of her line, and my chosen mate." A cheer erupted so sudden and loud that Maya nearly jumped. These wolves weren't looking at her with disgust or pity. They were looking at her with awe, respect, and genuine joy. An older man with silver-streaked hair and sharp blue eyes approached, bowing formally. "My queen, I am Elijah, chief counselor to the Nightcrest Pack. Your quarters have been prepared in the Moon Tower." "Thank you," Maya said, uncertain of the proper protocol. "The Moon Tower houses our most precious archive," Alexander explained. "Knowledge of the old ways, histories that predate written records. It has been waiting for a moon-blessed to return." As Elijah led them through the fortress, Maya marveled at the architecture. Unlike Ironwood's utilitarian buildings, Nightcrest was constructed with beauty in mind. Every archway, every staircase, every mosaic told a story of wolves and moon and ancient magic. But what struck Maya most was not the physical grandeur, but the people themselves. Young wolves mixed freely with elders, their interactions marked by mutual respect. Older wolves occupied positions of honor, their wisdom clearly valued. There was none of the dismissive attitude toward age that had characterized Ironwood. Your pack treats its elders differently, Maya observed quietly to Alexander. Experience is our greatest resource, he replied. Why discard it simply because the vessel has aged? The oldest wolves have seen the most moons, weathered the most storms. Their counsel has saved us many times. They reached a circular tower that rose above the surrounding structures, its walls made of pale stone that seemed to glow in the afternoon sun. Inside, a spiral staircase wound upward, each step inlaid with moonstone that illuminated their path. This was built centuries ago, Elijah explained as they climbed, when moon-blessed wolves were common among our ancestors. It has stood empty since the Great Purge, waiting for one of your kind to return. The Great Purge, Maya questioned. Margaret, who had joined them, nodded gravely. 300 years ago, fear spread among the wolf packs, fear of the power the moon-blessed wielded. A council of alphas voted to exterminate all moon-blessed wolves, to hunt them down and end their bloodlines forever. Not all packs participated, Alexander added. Nightcrest refused. It caused a rift that exists to this day. But it also made Nightcrest the natural sanctuary for any moon-blessed who escaped the purge. They reached the top of the tower where double doors of silver and white wood opened into a circular chamber that took Maya's breath away. The ceiling was a dome of clear crystal that would offer an unobstructed view of the night sky. Bookshelves lined the walls filled with ancient tomes and scrolls. A massive circular bed draped in silver and midnight blue dominated one side of the room, while a sitting area with comfortable chairs surrounded a central hearth on the other. These will be your quarters, Elijah said, gesturing around the space. The Alpha King's rooms connect directly through that passage, though tradition holds that you may maintain separate spaces until the formal mating ceremony if you wish. Maya felt her cheeks warm at the casual mention of such intimate arrangements. Alexander, sensing her discomfort, smoothly changed the subject. Maya will need time to settle in. Perhaps you could arrange for suitable clothing to be sent up and have the kitchen prepare a proper meal. Elijah bowed again. Of course, Your Majesty. Lady Margaret, we have prepared quarters for you in the eastern wing with the other pack elders. If you would allow me to show you. Margaret placed a weathered hand on Maya's shoulder. Rest now, child. Tomorrow your real education begins. After they left, Maya stood alone in the center of the moon tower, overwhelmed by the events of the past 3 days. From abused Omega to revered Queen, from broken wolf to legendary moon-blessed. It was too much to process. She moved to the window, gazing out at the territory that was now supposedly hers. Wolves moved through the streets below with purpose and dignity. No one cowered. No one was forced to hide. It's overwhelming, Alexander's voice came from the doorway. He had returned, silently now leaning against the frame, watching her with those intense silver eyes. This morning you were nobody. Tonight you're supposed to be a queen. I was never nobody, Maya corrected, turning to face him. I was hidden. There's a difference. A smile tugged at his lips. Indeed there is. He stepped into the room but maintained a respectful distance. I want you to know that I expect nothing from you, Maya. The bond between us is real, but bonds can take many forms. We have time to discover what ours will become. The consideration in his words touched her deeply. Most alphas would have claimed their rights without hesitation, especially with pack law and tradition on their side. But Alexander was offering her choice, offering her time. Thank you, she said simply. A knock interrupted whatever he might have said next. A young wolf entered carrying several garment bags, which she laid carefully across the bed before departing with a deep bow. I should let you rest, Alexander said. Tomorrow will bring many new challenges. Wait, Maya called as he turned to leave. Will you tell me more about this bond between us? What it means to be mated to an alpha king? Alexander paused, considering. It means that we are connected in ways few wolves ever experience. It means that your pain is my pain, your joy my joy. It means that I would burn the world to keep you safe. His voice deepened with emotion. But most importantly, it means you never have to be alone again. With that, he departed, leaving Maya to contemplate his words as night fell over Nightcrest. The following days passed in a whirlwind of new experiences. Each morning began with training sessions with James Alexander's Beta, who taught Maya the basics of combat and self-defense. Though she had never been trained at Ironwood, Maya discovered that her moon-blessed nature gave her natural advantages. Her reflexes were faster, her strength greater, her instincts sharper than ordinary wolves. "You're holding back," James observed on the fourth morning, circling her in the training yard. Though in his 50s, the beta moved with the fluid grace of a lifetime warrior. "You're afraid of your power." "I'm afraid of hurting you," Maya admitted, ducking under his swing. James laughed, a deep, genuine sound. "Young lady, I've been fighting alphas for 40 years. I can handle a bit of moon-blessed enthusiasm." The next time he lunged, Maya didn't check her strength. She sidestepped, caught his arm, and used his momentum to flip him onto his back. The move was executed with such speed that several watching wolves gasped. James grinned up at her from the ground. "Now we're getting somewhere." Afternoons were spent with Margaret and Elijah in the archives beneath the Moon Tower, studying the history and abilities of the moon-blessed bloodline. Maya learned that her kind could indeed walk on moonbeams, literally running on light itself. They could see through deceptions, phase through solid objects when the moon was full, and in rare cases channel the voices of their ancestors. "The council fears you because you represent justice they can't corrupt," Margaret explained during one lesson. "A normal wolf can be bribed, threatened, or killed, but moon-blessed wolves see truth absolutely. No alpha wants their sins exposed." Evenings belonged to Alexander. He would arrive after his duties, and they would walk the fortress walls talking about everything and nothing. Their connection grew stronger each day, their emotions bleeding into each other more clearly, though they had not yet completed the formal mating ritual. "What's it like?" Maya asked one evening as they watched the sun set over the mountains. "Being Alpha King, I mean. Responsible for so many lives." Alexander considered the question seriously. "Like carrying a mountain on your shoulders," he finally said. "Every decision affects thousands. Every mistake costs lives. Every success is temporary. Every failure permanent." "That sounds terrible," Maya said honestly. He laughed softly. "It is in many ways, but it's also an honor. To protect those who cannot protect themselves. To build something that will outlast you. To create peace where there was war." "Is that why you united the territories for peace?" Alexander's expression darkened. "I united them because the alternative was extinction. 7 packs fighting over dwindling resources, territory disputes causing bloodshed every full moon. We were destroying ourselves while the human world encroached more each year. And now we have strength in numbers, secure boundaries, shared resources. Internal disputes are settled by council rather than combat. We adapt to the changing world instead of fighting it." Maya studied his profile against the sunset, seeing beyond the intimidating Alpha King to the man beneath. A man who had shouldered impossible burdens, who had sacrificed his youth to save his people, who had spent 20 years honoring a promise to a woman who saved his life. "You were 13 when you became Alpha," she said, recalling something James had mentioned during training. "After your father died." Alexander's jaw tightened. "My father didn't simply die. He went mad, started killing pack members he imagined were plotting against him. I challenged him to save what was left of our pack." "You killed your own father." The words slipped out before Maya could stop them. "He wasn't my father anymore by then," Alexander said quietly. "The madness had taken him completely. The man who raised me, who taught me to hunt and fight and lead, was already gone. What remained was a monster wearing his skin." Maya reached out hesitantly, taking his hand. "I'm sorry." He looked down at their joined hands, then back at her face. "The council used it against me for years. The patricidal prince, they called me. Too dangerous to trust, too powerful to challenge. It was partly why I had to unite the territories by force rather than diplomacy. No one would listen to reason from a wolf they believed to be a murderer." "Is that why you conquered the other territories?" "I united them," he corrected gently. 6 separate packs all fighting over resources while their people starved. Now they share. Now they thrive. "The council must hate that," Maya observed. "They hate anything that threatens their power structure," he agreed, turning to her with sudden intensity. "Which is why they'll try to destroy you. You represent change they can't control." The night before the full moon, Maya couldn't sleep. She stood on her balcony, staring at the waxing gibbous moon, its silver light bathing her skin. The burning sensation that had plagued her for years was gone now, replaced by a comfortable warmth that spread through her body whenever she connected with her wolf. Then she heard it a whisper on the wind that shouldn't exist. Sister. She spun around, but the room was empty. The voice came again, clearer this time. Sister of moon and shadow. We see you. Who are you? She whispered to the night. We are the forgotten, the hidden, the moon, blessed who survived. We wake because you wake. We rise because you rise. Where are you, scattered, hidden, but calling to each other through the moonlight? The prophecy begins, and we answer. The connection faded, leaving Maya shaking. She wasn't the last. There were others, moon-blessed wolves who had survived the purge, who had remained hidden as her mother had hidden her. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Come in, she called. Alexander entered, and she could feel his concern through their growing bond. You're troubled. I heard voices, Maya explained. Other moon-blessed speaking through the moonlight. His eyes widened. That's impossible. The council swears. The council lies. Margaret Beach stood in the doorway, fully dressed despite the late hour. I've been waiting for this night. The full moon, after a moon-blessed awakening, sends out a call. Any with the bloodline will hear it. How many? Alexander asked. Unknown, Margaret replied. But if even a handful survived, she smiled, an expression of fierce satisfaction. The council's worst nightmare is about to come true. The following morning, as Maya and Alexander prepared for the full moon ceremony that would formally introduce her to all 7 territories under his rule, Elijah burst into the moon tower, his face grave. Your Majesty, we've received an emergency summons. The Council of Alphas is demanding Maya appear before them within the week. Alexander's reaction was immediate and fierce. They have no authority over her. They're invoking the ancient accords, Elijah continued grimly. Any wolf of questionable heritage must be verified by the council. If she doesn't appear, they'll declare her rogue. Let them try, Alexander snarled. If they declare her rogue, any wolf can legally hunt her, Margaret said, appearing in the doorway. It's what they did to my sisters, to Evelyn's cousins. Legal sanctioning of murder. Then we go, Maya said quietly. All 3 turned to stare at her. We go and we show them exactly what they've awakened. They want to verify my heritage. Let them look into the eyes of the last moon blessed and see their own judgment reflected back. Alexander's lips curved into a proud smile. My fierce mate, they won't know what hit them. The week of preparation passed in a blur of intensive training. Each dawn, Maya worked with James on physical combat, learning to use her unusual wolf form's advantages. Her crystalline fur could reflect light to blind opponents, and her claws could score marks in stone that normal wolves couldn't scratch. Your form is deceptive, James explained during one session. It appears delicate, almost fragile, but you're stronger than any wolf I've trained. Use their misconceptions against you. Afternoons were spent with Margaret and Elijah in the archives, studying moon-blessed history and abilities. Maya learned techniques to focus her power, to channel the moon's energy, even during daylight, to see truth beneath lies. The most powerful weapon of the moon-blessed isn't their strength or speed, Elijah told her. It's their vision, the ability to see the truth that others hide even from themselves. Like a mirror, Maya asked. Exactly like a mirror. The old counselor nodded. You reflect back what truly is not what others pretend to be. That's why the council fears you. Alphas build their power on carefully constructed images. You strip those away with a glance. In the evenings, Alexander would brief her on council politics, the 7 territories and their ruling, Alphas, the alliances and enmities that define wolf society. Most importantly, he taught her about Marcus Blackthorne, the head counselor who had led the vote to summon her. Marcus controls the Eastern Territories, Alexander explained. He's old, nearly 70, but don't let that fool you. He's ruthless, cunning, and utterly without mercy. He was a young wolf during the last purges, and he believes absolutely in the old hierarchies. Why does he hate the moon-blessed so much? Maya asked. Alexander's expression darkened. Because the last great moon-blessed, Aurora Silverbranch, publicly exposed his father's crimes 50 years ago. The Blackthorne family lost everything. Marcus spent decades rebuilding their power, and he's never forgotten the humiliation. So this is personal for him. Deeply personal. Alexander nodded. And he will use every weapon at his disposal to destroy you. Be prepared for anything. The night before they were to leave for the council gathering, Alexander came to Maya's chambers. His expression was solemn. his silver eyes troubled. "There's something we should discuss before facing the council," he said, sitting beside her near the hearth. "Something about the bond between us." Maya felt a flutter of anxiety. "What about it?" "It's incomplete," he said simply. "We've acknowledged it, but we haven't sealed it with the mating ritual. This leaves you vulnerable." Maya understood immediately. Without the formal mating, her position was weaker. The council could argue that Alexander's claim was provisional, that she was not truly his mate in the eyes of pack law. "What does the ritual involve?" she asked quietly. "Traditionally, it's quite simple. An exchange of bites in wolf form, marking each other as mates before witnesses." His eyes held hers steadily. "But for us, it would be more complex. The joining of an alpha king and a moon-blessed has implications beyond ordinary matings." "What kind of implications?" "Our powers would merge to some extent. I would gain some of your moon-blessed abilities, and you would gain some of my alpha authority. We would be linked mentally, able to communicate across distances." And he hesitated. "And," Maya prompted. "And it would be irreversible," he finished in. "Most matings can be severed, though painfully, if both parties agree. Ours would be permanent, until death." Maya considered this carefully. A week ago, she had been a despised Omega, certain she would live and die alone. Now she was being offered an eternal bond with the most powerful wolf in 7 territories. It should have terrified her. Instead, it felt right, like the final piece of a puzzle falling into place. "If we do this," she said slowly, "it would be my choice, not something forced by circumstance or politics." "Absolutely your choice," Alexander assured her. "I would rather face the council with you unmated than have you agree to something you're not ready for." Maya rose and moved to the window, gazing out at the stars. The moon was waning now, past full, but still bright enough to bathe the world in silver light. She thought of her mother's sacrifice, of Margaret's years of protection, of Alexander's 20-year search. All paths leading to this moment, this choice. She turned back to him. "I choose you," she said simply, "not because I need your protection or your status, but because my wolf chose yours the moment we met. Because what I feel for you is real even after so short a time." Alexander stood, crossing to her in 3 quick strides. His hands came up to frame her face with infinite gentleness. "Are you certain the council meeting is in 3 days? We have time." "I've spent my entire life being told to wait," Maya replied. "To hide. To suppress who and what I am. I'm done waiting." His silver eyes blazed with an emotion that stole her breath. Slowly giving her every chance to pull away, he lowered his mouth to hers. The kiss was gentle at first, almost reverent, but quickly deepened into something more primal, more urgent. Maya felt her wolf surge forward, eager and demanding, as heat spread through her body. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing heavily. Alexander rested his forehead against hers, his thumbs tracing patterns on her cheekbones. "Tonight," he whispered, "under the stars, as it should be for a moon-blessed and her mate." That night, in a sacred grove high above the Nightcrest fortress, Maya and Alexander stood before their closest allies. Margaret and Elijah represented the old ways, while James and a female wolf named Sarah represented the pack leadership. The waning moon hung overhead, bathing them all in silver light. "Since time beyond memory," Elijah intoned, his aged voice carrying clearly through the still night air, "wolves have formed bonds of mate and pack. But rarer still is the bond between true mates, those chosen by the moon goddess herself." Maya and Alexander stood facing each other, hands joined between them. They had shed their human clothing, wrapped only in simple robes of white that would be discarded when they shifted. "Tonight we witness the joining of Alexander Nightcrest, Alpha King of the 7 territories, and Maya Winters, last of the moon, blessed line. Their union bridges old and new power and wisdom, strength and mercy." Elijah raised a ceremonial chalice filled with clear liquid that caught the moonlight like liquid silver. "Drink from the waters of binding," he instructed, "waters drawn from the sacred spring beneath the moon tower, infused with the essence of moon and star." Alexander drank first, then held the chalice for Maya. The liquid tasted of moonlight and mountain snow, impossibly cold and yet warming as it traveled through her body. The moment it touched her lips, she felt her wolf stir, ready and eager for what would come next. "Now shift," Elijah commanded. "Reveal your true selves beneath the watching moon." They let the robes fall away, standing naked before each other and the witnesses. Maya felt no shame, only a rising excitement as she called her wolf forward. The shift came easily now, painless and fluid. One moment she stood on two legs, the next on four, her crystalline form catching and reflecting the moonlight. Alexander shifted as well. His massive black wool formed a stark contrast to her silvery radiance. They circled each other slowly, an ancient dance of recognition and acceptance. His silver eyes never left hers, filled with a devotion that touched her deeply. The bite of claiming, Elijah continued, given and received in perfect balance. Alexander moved first, approaching her with deliberate steps. He lowered his head, not in submission, but in offering. Maya understood instinctively what to do. She placed her teeth against the juncture of his neck and shoulder, feeling his pulse beneath her jaws. Then she bit down, not to injure, but to mark, to claim. The moment her teeth broke his skin, a shockwave of sensation traveled through her. Images, memories, feelings that weren't her own flooded her mind. Alexander as a child running through mountain forests. Alexander watching his father descend into madness. Alexander standing over his father's body, blood on his muzzle, tears in his eyes. Alexander uniting the territories, building Nightcrest into a sanctuary, searching endlessly for the daughter of the woman who saved his life. And through it all, a sense of loneliness so profound it made her heart ache. The isolation of leadership, the burden of responsibility, the yearning for someone who would see him as just Alexander, not the Alpha King. When she released him, it was his turn. He positioned himself carefully, then sank his teeth into the same spot on her neck. Again, the flood of connection, but this time it was her memories pouring into him. Her childhood of isolation, the cruelty of the Ironwood Pack, the pain of her suppressed shifts the moment she first saw him and felt her wolf awaken. As his teeth withdrew, something new blossomed between them. A bridge of thought and emotion stronger and clearer than before. Maya could feel Alexander's presence in her mind, warm and solid and real. "Can you hear me?" His voice in her thoughts was the same deep timbre, but somehow more intimate. "Yes," she replied, amazed at how natural it felt. "It's beautiful. You're beautiful," he countered, circling her once more before pressing his muzzle against hers in a gesture of affection. "The bond is sealed," Elijah announced. "What the moon has joined, let no wolf tear asunder. Behold the Alpha King and the Moon Queen bound in perfect harmony." The small gathering of witnesses erupted in howls of celebration, their voices rising toward the stars. Maya and Alexander joined them, their howls twining together in a harmony that seemed to make the very air vibrate with power. In that moment, with the stars wheeling overhead and her mate beside her, Maya finally understood what her mother had sacrificed everything to protect. Not just her life, but her destiny. A destiny that was only beginning to unfold. The journey to the neutral territory where the Council of Alphas convened took 2 days through treacherous mountain passes. Alexander had insisted on bringing a substantial escort, 50 of his best warriors, despite the supposed neutrality of the gathering. "Insurance," he explained when Maya questioned it. His silver eyes held a glint of hard-earned wisdom. "I've attended enough council meetings to know neutrality is often the first casualty when power is threatened." Maya understood. In her 21 years, she had learned that those with authority rarely surrendered it willingly. The lesson reminded her of something Margaret had told her about human history, how America's own revolutionary founders had faced similar resistance when challenging established orders. The council grounds stood as a testament to wolf history, a natural amphitheater carved into white stone high in the mountains that formed the border between territories. 7 ornate thrones sat in a semicircle, each occupied by an alpha who controlled vast lands. The architecture spoke of an era when power was concentrated in the hands of few, a system that had remained largely unchanged for centuries. As Maya entered alongside Alexander, with Margaret and Elijah following close behind, she sensed the weight of history pressing down upon her. Elijah leaned close, his weathered face carrying the lines of 8 decades of life. "I was here 70 years ago," he whispered, "when the last moon blessed was brought before the council for verification. She never left these grounds." "What happened to her?" Maya asked. Elijah's blue eyes clouded with painful memory. "Her name was Aurora. She was barely 20. They took her to the examination chambers beneath this amphitheater. We heard her screams for 3 days before they stopped." The quiet dignity in his voice, the controlled pain of someone who had lived long enough to witness both the best and worst of their kind, affected Maya deeply. Marcus Blackthorne, head counselor and ruler of the Eastern Territories, sat in the center throne. His face was deeply lined, his hair white as snow, but his amber eyes remained sharp with the cunning that had kept him in power for decades. On either side sat the other council members, their expressions ranging from curiosity to outright fear. Alexander Nightcrest. Marcus spoke, his voice stronger than his apparent age would suggest. You bring an unverified wolf before this council and claim she is moon-blessed. A serious assertion requiring serious evidence. Maya Winters requires no verification, Alexander replied coolly. Her nature is self-evident to anyone with eyes to see. Yet you resist the standard examination, Marcus countered. One might wonder why. Margaret stepped forward, her silver-streaked hair catching the light. The old woman stood tall despite her 78 years, facing Marcus, with the fearlessness of someone who had outlived most of her enemies. Perhaps, Margaret said, her voice carrying across the amphitheater, because we remember what your examinations truly are. I lost my sister in your father's examination chambers, Marcus, and my niece in yours. A murmur rippled through the gathered witnesses. Marcus's face tightened, but he maintained his composure. Margaret Winters, he acknowledged, I should have known you would outlive us all, still carrying your grudges after all these years. Not grudges, Marcus, evidence. From her robe, Margaret withdrew a weathered leather journal. Your father's records of the moon-blessed he examined, including detailed notes on how he extracted their power before killing them. Shall I read some passages to the gathering? A flash of fear crossed Marcus's face, quickly masked. He shifted his attention to Maya. I'm not here to debate ancient history. Maya spoke for the first time, her voice clear and steady. I'm here to end this charade. You summoned me to verify my heritage. Verify it. Marcus leaned forward, studying her with open skepticism. Show us your wolf, then. Prove this isn't some elaborate deception. Maya glanced at Alexander, who nodded slightly. She stepped into the center of the amphitheater and closed her eyes. Unlike the painful, incomplete transformations of her past, her shift now came with fluid grace. Her human form melted away to reveal the crystalline wolf beneath a creature of living moonlight. Sunlight streamed through the open amphitheater roof, catching in her prismatic fur and casting rainbows across the white stone walls. Several guards involuntarily stepped back, hands moving to weapons. The council members themselves seemed transfixed, some with wonder, others with unmistakable fear. But it was what happened next that truly shook the gathering to its core. From different sections of the crowd, 3 women rose and moved toward Maya. Each was distinct, one older with iron-gray hair, one barely 20, with auburn curls, and one middle-aged with dark skin and striking features. Yet they shared a sense of purpose that drew all eyes. As one, they shifted. Their transformations were as fluid as Maya's, revealing wolves unlike any the council had seen in generations. The eldest became a wolf of pure silver, her fur like liquid metal. The youngest transformed into what appeared to be living starlight, her coat glittering with points of light that mirrored the night sky. The third became a swirl of colors reminiscent of the northern lights, her fur rippling with waves of blue-green and violet. Sisters, they said in unison, their voices projected directly into the minds of everyone present. We stand with the silver moon. Marcus rose from his throne, his composure finally cracking. Impossible. The moon-blessed bloodlines were purged. Hidden, not purged, said the silver wolf, shifting back to her human form, an elegant woman in her 60s. I am Sarah Blackwood. My grandmother was executed by your father, Marcus. I've lived 3 miles from your territory border for 40 years, hiding in plain sight. I am Nora Ellis, the Starlight Wolf said, returning to her human form, a young woman with determined eyes. My mother bound my powers at birth and told everyone I was stillborn. The binding broke when Maya first transformed. And I am Aurora Light River, the third woman said, her accent marking her as from the far western territories. Named for the last moon blessed you murdered Marcus. We've been waiting, watching, preparing. How many more? Asked a female alpha named Sana, who ruled the western mountains. Unlike Marcus, she seemed more intrigued than afraid. Enough, Maya replied, shifting back to human form. The message was clear. There were more moon-blessed out there awakening from hiding. This changes nothing, Marcus declared, though his voice betrayed his uncertainty. The ancient accords state, The ancient accords also recognize the moon-blessed as equals to alphas. Elijah interrupted. He moved forward with the careful gait of an elder whose body had weathered many storms, but whose mind remained sharp as ever. The old counselor withdrew a scroll from inside his jacket. I've served 3 Alpha Kings, studied our laws for 7 decades. The statute claiming authority over the moon-blessed was illegally added 300 years ago without the required consensus. He turned to address the gathered wolves. I was a young man when I watched the last purge. I said nothing did nothing because I believed our leaders knew best. His voice grew stronger. I have lived with that shame for 50 years. It brings wisdom, but often too late. Today I speak what I should have spoken then. Maya watched Elijah with profound respect. Here was strength that had nothing to do with physical power or dominance, the strength of moral courage refined through decades of reflection. What do you want? Sana asked Maya, directly cutting through the tension. Justice, Maya replied simply. The hierarchies that condemn wolves for their designation rather than their character. The laws that allow the strong to abuse the weak. The system that would have seen me dead for being born different. She looked at each alpha in turn. It all needs to change. You're talking about revolution, Marcus accused his wolf, surging close to the surface. I'm talking about evolution, Maya corrected. Change is inevitable. The only choice is whether it comes through growth or collapse. For several tense moments, the amphitheater balanced on the edge of violence. Then Maya did something unexpected. She kneeled. Not in submission, but in the formal posture of challenge that dated back to the earliest days of wolf society. I, Maya Winters, moon-blessed and mate to the Alpha King, challenge Marcus Blackthorne for his seat on this council. Her eyes locked with his. Unless you're afraid to face someone you once dismissed as a broken Omega. The calculated insult struck its mark. Marcus's face flushed with rage. I accept. Alexander moved to intervene, but Maya stopped him with a look. Through their bond, she sent a clear message. Trust me, I need to do this. The amphitheater cleared quickly, forming the traditional circle for formal challenges. Marcus shifted his wolf, large and battle-scarred teeth bared in anticipation. Maya remained human, walking calmly around the circle's edge. Shift Omega, Marcus growled through the mental link all wolves shared during challenges. Face me properly. I don't need to shift to face you, Marcus, Maya replied calmly. You've been hunting my kind for 50 years. I think you've earned a few moments of my human attention. His attack came with explosive speed, a gray blur of teeth and claws lunging for her throat. At the last possible instant, Maya sidestepped with preternatural grace. Marcus crashed into the stone where she had stood, leaving deep cracks in the ancient surface. Age hasn't improved your temper, she observed. He attacked again, more cautiously this time. Instead of dodging, Maya's form shimmered and became translucent. Marcus passed through her as if through mist, stumbling in confusion on the other side. Impossible, someone gasped from the audience. Phase shifting, Margaret explained. The ability to become incorporeal at will, one of the moon-blessed gifts. Maya materialized behind Marcus. I could fight you physically, Marcus. I could shift into my wolf form and match you claw for claw. But that's not why I'm here. He spun, teeth snapping at empty air as she moved again. Fight me, coward. I am fighting, Maya replied, just not with teeth and claws. She stopped moving, standing perfectly still as Marcus circled her. Tell me, do you remember Sarah Winters from the Cedar Creek Pack 50 years ago? Marcus faltered, a flicker of recognition in his eyes. What, an Omega, barely 18, pretty with unusual blue eyes. Your father took a special interest in her during one of his inspections. When she threatened to tell her alpha what he'd done, she disappeared. Ancient history, Marcus snarled, but uncertainty had entered his mental voice. Not to me, Maya said softly. She was my aunt, my mother's younger sister. She took a step toward him, and though she remained in human form, something in her posture made Marcus retreat. The truly extraordinary gift of the moon-blessed isn't our shifting or our phase walking or even our connection to the moon itself. It's the ability to see truth, through lies, through time, through the masks people wear. Her eyes began to glow with silver light. I see you, Marcus Blackthorne. I see the young wolf who watched his father torture innocents and told himself it was necessary. I see the alpha who continued those practices while telling himself it was different when he did it. I see every rationalization, every self-deception, every moment you knew you were wrong, but continued anyway. You can't know these things. Marcus whispered, his wolf form trembling now. I do. Maya finally shifted, her crystalline form towering over his suddenly diminished wolf. And now everyone will. She placed one luminous paw gently against Marcus's head. He screamed not from physical pain, but from the sudden, merciless exposure of his innermost self. Through Maya's touch, every wolf present saw fragments of Marcus's memories. The Omegas who had disappeared, the pack starved into submission. The challenges rigged with silver weapons, the slow corruption of a wolf who had once perhaps wanted to be better than his father. Maya didn't need to attack physically. The weight of truth was crushing enough. Yield, she said quietly. Resign your position. Leave these territories. Spend your remaining years contemplating what you've done and what you might yet do to make amends. Marcus collapsed, shifting back to human form, an old man broken not by violence but by the irrefutable witness of his own conscience. I yield, he whispered. I resign. As Marcus was led away, Maya turned to face the remaining council members. The amphitheater had fallen completely silent. Anyone else want to challenge the evidence of your own eyes? She asked. After a long pause, Sana stood. Unlike the other council members, the Western Alpha's expression held thoughtful consideration rather than fear. Change is clearly necessary, but complete upheaval invites chaos. She studied Maya carefully. I propose a compromise. The Moon Blessed are acknowledged as legitimate and equal. In return, we work together to reshape our society not through destruction, but through thoughtful reform. Define together, Alexander said, moving to stand beside Maya. A new council structure, Sana suggested. Representation from all designations, with the Moonblessed serving as mediators. We establish a transition period where new laws can be implemented without causing unnecessary suffering. Maya considered this. Revolution was tempting the clean slate of completely new beginnings. But revolutions, as human history showed, often devoured their own children. And the wolves who would suffer most in chaos would be the most vulnerable, the very ones she sought to protect. We'll try your approach, she finally agreed, but understand this isn't negotiable. Every wolf, regardless of designation, must have equal protection under our laws. If reform fails, we will find another way. As they left the council grounds, Sarah approached Maya. There's something you should know. The Void Alpha has awakened. Maya froze. I appreciate General Sherman. I thought he was just a legend. Very real, Sarah said gravely, and he's hunting. 3 packs in the eastern valleys have vanished in the past month. No survivors. Margaret told me about him, but I thought, Maya began. William Sherman was once a human general in their Civil War, Elijah explained, joining them. A brilliant tactician, but the horrors he witnessed and those he inflicted fractured something inside him. When he was turned, his latent moon-blessed heritage awakened, but it was already corrupted. He discovered he could consume the essence of other wolves, Sarah continued, absorbing their power, extending his unnatural life. For decades, he's remained dormant, feeding occasionally, but never revealing himself fully. Until now, Alexander added grimly. With your awakening, with the emergence of other moon-blessed, he's grown bolder, hungrier. We've intercepted his scouts near our territories, Elijah said. He's testing our defenses, studying our patterns, preparing. Maya felt the weight of this new threat settle onto her shoulders. Then we prepare as well. If he's drawn to the moon-blessed, we use that. We choose the battleground. The ancient battleground, Elijah suggested, where the first moon-blessed made their stand against him centuries ago. The ley lines are strongest there, channeling the moon's power even during daylight. That's in the heart of the territories, Alexander pointed out. If we fail, then we fail defending our people, Maya finished firmly, not hiding from the threat. Over the next 3 days, Maya and Alexander sent word to all packs throughout the 7 territories. Many responded, not just those allied with Nightcrest, but smaller packs who had suffered under the old hierarchy's rogues-seeking purpose, even humans who had learned to fight alongside wolves. They come for you, Alexander observed as they stood at the edge of the ancient battleground, watching arrivals stream in. The once rejected Omega now brings hope to thousands. They don't come for me, Maya corrected gently. They come for what I represent, the possibility that the old stories were wrong. That strength comes in many forms, that value isn't determined by designation or bloodline. By sunset, nearly 5,000 had gathered, impressive, but still greatly outnumbered by the forces Sherman could command. 12 moon-blessed stood in a circle at the center of the valley, Maya, Sarah, Nora, and Aurora, joined by 8 others who had emerged from hiding. Each had a unique form, a different manifestation of the moon-blessed heritage, but together they created a harmony that made the very air vibrate with power. As twilight deepened, Elijah approached Maya. The old counselor moved carefully, his joints stiff with age, but his eyes remained keen. "I've lived through 3 great conflicts," he said. "I've seen wolves I loved die in battle. I've seen leaders rise and fall. But I've never seen anything like what you've accomplished in just a few weeks." He placed a weathered hand on her shoulder. "Whatever happens tonight, remember that you've already changed everything." "I couldn't have done it without your guidance," Maya replied. "Your knowledge, your wisdom. That's the gift of age." Elijah smiled wryly. "We make all the mistakes so you don't have to repeat them." A shout went up from the sentries. "Movement on the northern ridge." All eyes turned to the horizon, where darkness crept forward, not the natural darkness of night, but something else. Something that devoured light, that made the air thick and wrong. At its head walked a figure that might once have been a wolf or a man, but was now a writhing mass of shadow and hunger. The Void Alpha. "You shine so bright," its voice slithered into every mind present. "So much light to consume, so much power to claim." "Form the constellation," Maya called to the other moon-blessed. They shifted as one, arranging themselves in a circular pattern that mirrored the stars above. Maya at the center, the others forming points of a 12-sided figure. They began to howl, not in unison but in harmony, their voices weaving together into something greater than their parts. The moon, full and heavy overhead, seemed to respond, its light intensifying and focusing through them like a lens. Sherman's army attacked with unnatural silence. Thousands of hollowed wolves, empty vessels animated by shadow, crashed against the defensive lines. Where normal wolves fought with fang and claw, these creatures seemed to absorb attacks, healing instantly from wounds that would have killed living wolves. For each hollowed wolf destroyed, 2 more took its place. The defenders began to fall back, their lines buckling under the onslaught. "Hold the circle," Sarah shouted as chaos erupted around them. "The constellation must remain intact." Silver fire began to emanate from the moon-blessed circle, washing over the battlefield in pulses. Where it touched the hollowed wolves, they dissolved into ash. Where it touched the defenders, it renewed their strength and courage. The Void Alpha roared in fury, charging directly toward Maya. Alexander intercepted his massive black wolf form, slamming into the shadowy entity. "You cannot protect her forever," Sherman hissed, his voice a corruption of human speech. "I will consume her light and become unstoppable." "You'll have to go through me first," Alexander snarled back. The battle between them was brutal. Despite his strength and skill, Alexander was outmatched by Sherman's unnatural abilities. Where Alexander's attacks landed, Sherman's form simply reformed. When Sherman struck, the wounds he inflicted refused to heal, leaking black corruption into Alexander's fur. With a terrible sound, half laugh, half howl, Sherman caught Alexander in a grip that seemed to drain the very life from him. The Alpha King's struggles weakened, his silver eyes clouding as Sherman's corruption spread through his body. Maya felt Alexander's pain through their bond. Without hesitation, she broke from the constellation. "Keep channeling," she commanded the others, then raced toward her mate. Sherman threw Alexander's limp form aside and turned to face Maya, his form shifting between wolf and human, and something else entirely, something ancient and wrong. At last he whispered, reaching for her with hands made of living shadow. "The last pure moon blessed, your light will complete me." Maya didn't dodge. Instead, she met him head-on, her crystalline form blazing with concentrated moonlight. When they collided, the impact sent shockwaves across the battlefield, momentarily pausing the fighting as all eyes turned to witness the confrontation of purest light and deepest shadow. Sherman wrapped his darkness around her, attempting to consume her essence as he had consumed so many others before her. "Your light," he crooned, the hunger in his voice palpable. "So pure, so bright." "And not what you expected," Maya finished for him. She wasn't resisting Sherman's attempt to absorb her power. She was allowing it, but on her terms. Where he sought to consume, she offered freely. Where he expected to find power to steal, he found understanding he couldn't escape. Maya saw him clearly, not just the monster he had become, but the man he had been. William Sherman, a brilliant tactician broken by witnessing too much death. A soldier who had tried to end war through terrible efficiency only to find himself haunted by what he had done. A man turned wolf whose pain had twisted his moon-blessed gift of truth-seeing into something darker, the ability to see only the worst in others to feed on their fears and regrets. "You don't have to be this," Maya told him, her voice reaching not his ears but something deeper. "You've lived in darkness so long, you've forgotten there was ever light." "Impossible," Sherman gasped, his form beginning to unravel as Maya's light burned through him. "You cannot know me. No one can." "I see you, Matthew," Maya said simply, her voice gentle despite everything. "The truth you have hidden even from yourself. The general who wanted peace. The wolf who wanted belonging. The moon-blessed who wanted purpose." The darkness comprising Sherman's form began to dissolve, releasing the thousands of souls he had consumed over centuries. Yet Maya didn't destroy him entirely. At his core, she found what remained of the human, a frightened, broken soul who had lost his way. This fragment she held, carefully separating it from the corruption that had consumed it. "Find peace," she whispered, releasing it to whatever lay beyond. With Sherman's dissolution, his army of hollowed wolves collapsed into dust. The darkness that had threatened to devour everything was burned away, leaving only moonlight and the aftermath of battle. Maya felt herself falling, exhaustion claiming her as the last of her strength gave out. Strong arms caught her. Alexander, wounded but alive, his silver eyes bright with pride and love. "You did it," he said through their bond. "You saved us all." "We did it," she corrected, feeling consciousness slipping away. "Together." 1 year later, the council chamber had been rebuilt according to an entirely new design. Gone was the imposing arrangement that elevated alphas above others. In its place stood a circular chamber where representatives from every designation sat as equals: Alpha, Beta, Delta, Gamma, and Omega, with the Moonblessed serving as mediators when disputes arose. Maya stood near the chamber's center, a simple silver crown resting on her head. It had been crafted from metal salvaged from the ancient battleground, each segment representing a different territory now united under new laws. Beside her, Alexander watched the proceedings with quiet pride. His protective intensity remained, but was now balanced with absolute confidence in Maya's abilities. The wounds from his battle with Sherman had left silver scars across his body, a reminder of what they had nearly lost and what they had gained. The territorial dispute between Eastmount and Riverdale Pax, Sana announced, reading from the day's agenda. She had become a key ally in the transition, her experience tempering Maya's idealism with practical wisdom. "Both claim rights to the Silver Creek hunting grounds," Sana continued. "Each presents valid historical claims." "Let them share it," suggested Vera, the young alpha who had replaced Marcus. She had risen from the Omega ranks after the old hierarchies fell, bringing a fresh perspective to leadership. "Alternate seasons or establish joint hunting parties. Resources exist to be shared, not hoarded." A year earlier, such a suggestion would have caused uproar. Now both disputing packs nodded thoughtfully, already discussing implementation details. "The integration programs are showing remarkable success," Sarah reported. She had taken charge of education reform, ensuring wolves of all designations received equal training. This year's graduates include 7 Omegas who have mastered advanced combat techniques and 3 Alphas who have chosen healing arts. Boundaries between traditional roles are blurring in the most promising ways. "The old council members would roll in their graves," Nora commented with a smile. "Perhaps," Elijah said, his voice carrying the gentle authority of his 80 years. "But the best traditions survive by adapting. We honor our ancestors not by preserving their mistakes, but by building on their wisdom." Through the chamber's tall windows, Maya could see the memorial garden. They had planted a grove of silver trees, one for each wolf lost in the battle against Sherman. The fight had claimed many lives, including several of the older wolves who had risked everything to stand against darkness. Their sacrifice remained a constant reminder of both the cost of change and its necessity. When the session concluded, Maya and Alexander walked together through the grounds of what had once been Nightcrest Pack, but was now called Unity, the central territory where wolves of all designations could live without hierarchy. "Any regrets?" Alexander asked as they paused near a cliff overlooking the valley. Maya considered the question seriously. "I regret the lives lost, the pain caused, but not the path taken." And us, he asked softly. Do you regret binding yourself to a wolf twice your age with twice the baggage? Maya smiled, touching the mating mark on her neck. Your experience is your strength, Alexander. I wouldn't trade it for anything. They continued walking until they reached a small cabin where Margaret waited with three young wolf pups, orphans from the battle whom they had adopted. Hope, the smallest, and an Omega by designation, ran to Maya with arms outstretched. Mama, tell us the story again, she pleaded, about the broken Omega who became queen. That's not how the story goes, her brother Elijah, named after their late friend, corrected. She was never broken. She was just hidden. You're both right, Maya said, lifting Hope into her arms. Sometimes what appears broken is actually being transformed into something stronger. As twilight fell, more Moonblessed arrived for their monthly gathering, now 23 strong and growing. Each brought discoveries from the ancient library, which had been unsealed and restored under Margaret's guidance. Sarah had found healing techniques that could neutralize silver poisoning. Nora had deciphered star charts predicting future Moonblessed awakenings. Aurora had recovered songs that could calm feral wolves caught between forms. 20 more responded to the call this week, Margaret reported with satisfaction. Hidden bloodlines awakening across the continent. The days of hiding are truly over. Later, as moonlight bathed the valley, Maya stood on her balcony watching her transformed world. Alexander joined her, his arms encircling her waist. You changed everything, he murmured against her hair. We changed everything, she corrected. All of us together. In the distance, a young Omega's howl rose confident, proud, unashamed. Others joined, creating a symphony that would have been impossible just a year before. The prophecy had been fulfilled, though not as anyone expected. The old ways had fallen not through violence or domination, but through understanding justice and the revolutionary idea that every wolf had inherent worth. As Maya listened to the harmonious howls echoing through the night, she thought of all the paths that had led to this moment. Her mother's sacrifice, Margaret's protection, Alexander's search, her own journey from rejection to acceptance. The Moonblessed had returned not to rule but to heal, not to dominate but to unite. The silver moon had risen indeed, and it would never set again.